It's the Valley's geekiest weather video. It's Weather for Weather Geeks, the Friday evening edition. This is the 10th day of February. We're over a third of the way through this short month, and it's been another balmy month overall in the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, it's been a little bit colder lately. We're going to start out this evening and talk about the larger picture, then we'll kind of zoom in on our local area. Here's a look at some evening temperatures. Denver had their warmest February day on record today, with highs in the upper 70s, and look at all the warmth across the middle of the country this evening. Now, we're on the periphery, or we're going to be on the periphery of this. Notice the difference between us and St. Louis. We're 25 here at 7:45, and St. Louis is is it all the way up to 67 degrees. We're going to get on the periphery of this warmth. We're unfortunately not going to see the 60s and 70s, but I do think we'll make a run at 50 or so tomorrow afternoon. Most of the action this evening is on both coasts. A little bit of snow. This was the little band that went through our area earlier on today. It was mostly virga. We had a lot of dry air in the lowest couple of thousand feet of the atmosphere, so most of that didn't reach the ground. But that's one spot that has a little active weather. The other spot is out west, where, it's been more like an El Nino winter in California. They've had tons of rain and mountain snow. Great news for their drought situation, but kind of unusual in a non-El Nino year for them to have this much precipitation during the winter season. All right, here back at home, let's look at the calendar view so far through the first 10 days of the month. Now, yesterday's a little deceiving. That high of 36 yesterday was at midnight. It was, of course, much colder midday and afternoon. Our high when I produced this graphic earlier on this evening, at that point was 25, but actually temperatures will keep rising overnight. But as you can see, the warmer than average days have outnumbered the cooler than average days so far once again this month. So first third of February looking pretty mild. Speaking of mild, our warm front's going to roll through tonight. In its wake, tomorrow, pretty cloudy day, but that won't inhibit the temperatures from rising well above average. Again, 50 or so in most of the valley tomorrow afternoon. Now, unfortunately, if you've been paying attention to the forecast over the last few days, a few days ago we had 59 for a forecast on Sunday. Unfortunately, that's not going to come to fruition, as this low-pressure system is taking a much more southerly track now, and that's going to keep the real warm air from pushing all the way this far to the north. So we're going to get some rain Sunday morning, and then scattered afternoon showers, but more importantly, I think the warm air is just not going to get in. In fact, temperatures will fall Sunday afternoon. Now look at this, by Sunday evening, snow's going to be flying. There's going to be some lake-enhanced snow showers on the backside of this, a strengthening wind. So instead of 59 on Sunday like we thought a few days ago, how about mid-40s in the morning and probably mid-30s by the evening? So unfortunately, our optimism from a few days ago has vanished for Sunday. Now, as this storm pushes off to the east, cold air wraps in. It's going to be windy Sunday night into Monday. I think there'll be some more snow showers around, and this will turn into another big snowstorm for New England. They just got hammered, and they're going to get hammered once again. So our weekend outlook looks like this. We have a high of 51 in the forecast for tomorrow. Small chance of a shower by the end of the day, but by far and away the better chance is for Saturday night and heading into Sunday morning. And again, temperatures will fall from that midday high of 43 on Sunday, probably back through the 30s during the afternoon. As far as the rainfall totals with our Saturday night and Sunday rain event, most of the modeling is kind of clustered around a quarter of an inch with this. I think that's reasonable. The Canadian model in the blue and the GFS in the red going a little hog wild, probably a little too much there. I think a quarter of an inch is pretty reasonable. Now, as far as snow goes, as this changes over to some snow showers late Sunday into Sunday night and Monday morning, I could see where someone tries to get an inch or two out of this, especially north of I-80, maybe some dustings elsewhere. But again, they're going to get hammered in New England now. They've got tons of snow on the ground up there. They're going to get another 2 feet. In parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, and down towards the Boston area, they're going to get hammered with this as well, with a lot of wind and perhaps some blizzard conditions. All right, over the next 10 days here, here's the overall forecast. Now, we've been advertising this big warm-up coming around the 20th of the month, and I still think that's on track. After a fairly seasonable week, it'll be well above average up into the 40s on Tuesday. Overall, pretty typical week for mid-February coming up. But starting next weekend, we're probably going to string together 4, maybe 5 days in a row where we are way above average, perhaps 15 degrees or more above average. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up having a 60-degree day or two in that warm spell, again, in about 10 days, 9-10 days, right around the 20th of the month. All right, I promised I would talk a little bit about March. I know it's only February 10th, but February is going to go into the record books as a warmer than average month. Very high confidence in that. What about March? Let's start thinking about that a little bit. This is the latest 7 runs averaged together of the CFS, the Climate Forecast System model. Actually has kind of an interesting look here. It has a cooler look than it did for January and February at this same time before those months, say 3 weeks ahead of time. So there's some modeling here that would suggest that March might be a little bit closer to average and maybe even a little below average. At least that's what it's advertising right now. It's interesting when you go back and you look at all the years that had pretty mild Januaries and Februaries, and you average all those together and then take a look at March. And the picture that's painted here actually looks like what winter's looked like so far. Cold in the west, and perhaps a mild signal in the east. You can see there's not a lot of orange and yellow in the east, but there's also not much cold shown either. So when you look at what we call the analog years, the years that were similar to this, that had warm Januaries and Februaries, more often than not every year, but more often than not, the eastern U.S. was fairly mild in March. So that goes against some of the current modeling a little bit. So what do I think? I think at this very early stage of the game, March is likely to be closer to average than January and February. But it wouldn't shock me at all if we ended up above average again. The atmosphere just wants to be warmer than average right now. It's been like this since early last year. And until proven otherwise, a pretty good forecast is persistence right now. A persistence forecast where just keep forecasting warm until something changes. So that's my gut feeling right now, is that March may not be quite as mild as January and February compared to average, but it wouldn't shock me at all if we ended up on the plus side of average again. It would surprise me if it ended up being a real cold March. That doesn't seem likely to me at all as it stands now. Stay tuned for more March updates as we get closer. Hope you have a great Friday night. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you tonight on 21 News at 11. Enjoy your weekend.